Most believers never realize this until the damage is already done. Some of the biggest financial leaks in your life don't come from bad budgeting or lack of discipline. They come from people. People you pray with, people you love, people you feel spiritually obligated to help. You felt that tension, wanting to be generous, faithful, Christ-like, yet quietly watching your finances weaken, your peace erode, and your progress stall. And you've wondered, is this sacrifice or is something wrong? There are people in your life right now who are not just emotionally heavy, but financially draining your calling. And Scripture has far more to say about this than most Christians are ever taught.
You've been asking yourself questions you don't always say out loud. Why does it feel like no matter how careful I am, I'm always behind? Why do I feel guilty setting financial boundaries? Why does generosity feel more like pressure than joy? Maybe you've noticed a pattern. Every time you start to gain stability, someone appears with a need, a crisis, a story that pulls at your compassion. And because you love God, you don't want to harden your heart. You don't want to be selfish. You don't want to miss an opportunity to bless someone. But quietly, you feel conflicted. You give, yet peace doesn't follow. You help, yet resentment grows. You sacrifice, yet nothing seems to change, for them or for you. And then the guilt sets in. Maybe I'm not generous enough. Maybe God is testing me. Maybe this is just what faith costs. Meanwhile, you look around and wonder why others seem to walk in provision while you're constantly recovering. This isn't just about money. It's about discernment, and the confusion is exhausting. Scripture never calls you to be reckless, yet many believers confuse obedience with financial self-destruction. And that confusion keeps people spiritually sincere, but financially stuck.
The reason this matters is deeper than dollars. The voice you listen to, especially in matters of money, shapes your future. Your generosity affects your ability to steward what God entrusts to you. And stewardship isn't optional in Scripture, it's foundational. When finances are constantly drained, other things suffer too. Peace, vision, margin, the ability to respond when God truly calls you to give. Scripture shows us that provision flows where wisdom and discernment are honored. But when boundaries are ignored, even good intentions can lead to bondage. There are two paths believers walk. One path confuses compassion with compliance, saying yes to everyone, rescuing repeatedly, enabling dysfunction, and quietly losing ground. The other path understands that God's generosity is purposeful, not pressured, that helping without discernment can actually delay growth, maturity, and healing, both for you and for others. This distinction changes everything. Because God is not trying to empty you, He's trying to establish you, not isolate you, but align you, not drain you, but multiply what's been entrusted to you. And once you see these patterns clearly, you'll never unsee them again.
Let me show you 7 toxic types of people who quietly drain finances and how Scripture teaches us to recognize them. This isn't about judgment, it's about clarity.
1. The perpetual crisis person. This person always has an emergency. Rent is due. The car broke down. Something unexpected happened. Again. Scripture shows compassion for genuine need, but it also reveals a pattern. Some people never move beyond crisis because rescue replaces responsibility. When help becomes a cycle instead of a bridge, something is broken. If every time you give, the situation resets instead of improves, that's not provision, it's dependency. Ask yourself, does my help empower growth or prolong the problem?
2. The guilt-driven manipulator. This person may never ask directly, but they imply. They spiritualize their need. They frame your refusal as lack of faith or love. Scripture never uses guilt as a tool for generosity. Giving in the Bible flows from willingness, not pressure. When generosity feels heavy, rushed, or coerced, something is off. God convicts. People manipulate. Ask yourself, am I giving from peace or from pressure?
3. The financially irresponsible borrower. They promise repayment. They believe the next opportunity will fix everything, but patterns repeat. Scripture speaks clearly about debt, not as shame, but as wisdom. Repeated borrowing without change reveals a heart not ready for stewardship. Helping without accountability doesn't heal, it enables. Ask yourself, has there been real change or only promises?
4. The lifestyle leech. This person enjoys comfort funded by your sacrifice. They spend freely while leaning on your stability. Scripture warns against carrying burdens that others are called to carry themselves. There's a difference between sharing a burden and replacing responsibility. When your generosity funds indulgence rather than need, discernment is required. Ask yourself, is my support encouraging wisdom or avoiding it? 5. The spiritually immature dependent. They love prayer, they speak faith, but they resist discipline, structure, and growth. Scripture teaches that faith and responsibility walk together. Spiritual language without fruit reveals immaturity. Helping someone who refuses growth keeps them stuck. Ask yourself, is this assistance aligned with growth or avoiding it?
6. The boundary-resistant family member. This one is the hardest because love feels automatic and boundaries feel wrong. But Scripture never commands unlimited access. Even Jesus withdrew. Even Jesus said no. Family doesn't excuse dysfunction. When boundaries are violated repeatedly, financial damage often follows. Ask yourself, is love being expressed or exploited? 7. The silent drain. This person never asks, they just assume. Your help has become expected, your support invisible, your sacrifice normalized. Scripture honors generosity, but never entitlement. When appreciation disappears and expectation replaces it, toxicity has formed. Ask yourself, would this relationship survive if I stopped giving? Let that sink in. Now imagine your life with this clarity. Imagine generosity flowing from peace, not obligation. Imagine your finances stabilizing, not because you hardened your heart, but because you sharpened your discernment. You begin to give with purpose, to help where growth is possible, to steward resources with confidence instead of fear. Relationships become healthier because boundaries bring honesty. Resentment fades because giving aligns with calling. Your yes carries weight because it's no longer forced. You're no longer afraid to say no because you understand that obedience isn't people-pleasing. This is the freedom Scripture points to. Not isolation, not selfishness, but wise stewardship that allows provision to flow where God intends. Everything changes when discernment leads generosity. So take a moment and ask yourself, who in my life consistently leaves me financially strained? Where does my generosity feel pressured instead of peaceful? What patterns keep repeating without growth? Starting today, you don't need to harden your heart. You need to guard it. You don't need to stop giving. You need to give wisely. You don't need guilt. You need discernment. If this brought clarity, know this, you're not alone. Many believers are waking up to the difference between compassion and compliance. And as Scripture reminds us, wisdom protects what generosity builds.